From weapons of mass destruction to climate change, there are 10 of the world's biggest problems. Before we begin, be sure to subscribe to They Will Kill You. Hit the like button and request any topics you'd like to learn about in the comments section below. Number 10. Weapons of mass destruction. Even though there's been great progress on nuclear disarmament since the end of the Cold War, weapons of mass destruction aren't completely removed as a threat. 9 states are currently known to possess nuclear arsenals, adding up to an estimated total of 15,000 warheads, with the US and Russia holding almost half of the stock. Meanwhile, Pakistan has the world's fastest growing nuclear stockpile, and Israel is deploying cruise missiles with nuclear weapons on submarines. Sometimes, the countries that host the world's nuclear armament find themselves in unstable relationships. The idea that they possess weapons capable of obliterating entire cities understandably makes some people feel uneasy. Another concern is the security of the weapons systems, as they were developed at a time when computer capabilities were in their infancy. Researchers have recently pointed to the fact that the weapons could be vulnerable to cyber attack, or that a large-scale cyber attack could lead to the escalation of a nuclear response. Number 9. Pollution and waste. Reduce, reuse, and recycle are terms most associated with paper or plastic, but electronics might be some of the most dangerous discarded items. Components such as heavy metals can leak into the ground as the remains are packed into landfills and eventually get into the groundwater. Harmful dioxins are also released in the air when the items are incinerated. Every year, over 50 million tons of electronic waste is created, only 12.5% of it being recycled. Another problem associated with the use of electronics is energy waste. Even leaving your fully charged cell phone attached to the charger can waste almost 20 kilowatts a year. Given the current trends, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development warns that energy-related emissions will increase by 70% over the next 30 years. The primary environmental effect is an increase in the carbon footprint. This may accelerate the consequences of climate change, including a rise in the frequency of extreme weather events. Number 8. Food and water safety. Our economy is built around natural resources, and since we're consuming much more than we need, the planet can barely cope with the demand. It's been estimated that by the end of 2050, the world will have 9 billion people to feed. The demand for food will be greater than it is today, so the consumption of water, gas, and energy will also grow. This inevitably interferes with the makeup of our food. We take too much from nature and dispose it carelessly into the atmosphere, causing pollution, which affects our resources. Carbon pollution has an additional impact that we're only beginning to understand. The increasing level of CO2 in the atmosphere may be making our food less nutritious. Researchers who over the past 70 years have witnessed a measurable drop in the vitamin, mineral, and protein content in fruits and vegetables have called this the junk food effect. Number 7. Global health. Apart from diseases like malaria that still kill hundreds of thousands of people every year, the issue of mental health is getting more and more problematic. Almost every country in the world is currently facing and failing to manage a mental health crisis, from epidemics of anxiety and depression to conditions caused by trauma and violence. It is estimated that 13.5 million lives could be saved every year if the underlying mental health problems were addressed. In many of the world's countries, people don't even expect to find help anymore. Surveys in China and India, countries which are home to a third of the world's population, suggest that more than 80% of the people with substance use disorders or other mental health problems didn't seek treatment, and when they did, the quality was poor. Number 6. Education. Survival in harsh environments like the ones we used to inhabit in the past required the development of logical skills in order to survive. The environment today consists of less physical threats, so the educational system is meant to prepare children for other challenges of life in a society. The problem today is no longer only about the lack of access to schooling, but rather about what happens once children enter a classroom. The effort made to educate young people is tremendous, but the results on a global scale seem to be lacking. The emphasis more often than not falls on the quantity of schooling and not its quality. Not only are there not enough teachers globally, but many of them are also untrained, which leads to children failing to learn the basics. In countries like Kenya and Uganda, 75% of the third grade students cannot read a simple phrase. In rural India, half of the fifth graders cannot subtract two-digit numbers. This contributes to the perpetuation of inequality, with the people in the world's poorest regions suffering the most from the consequences of educational inefficacy. Number 5. Economy. Our current economic system places more value on corporate needs than it does on the needs of the planet or humanity. Instead of financing medium and small-sized businesses that are the main job creators, banks mainly grant loans to people with collaterals already existing. In the market economy, the consumers are the ones who dictate by spending money on certain goods and services more than on others. This is where media advertising plays its role. The current system demands that we consume more in order for the economy to continue to grow. To a certain point, this makes sense, but we are sacrificing more and more to keep the system stable. While many people can't afford access to food or water, others end up measuring their social status by the things they own. The rich and poor distinction thus fuels a constantly growing notion of separation. Number 4. Addiction to technology. Billions of dollars are being spent on trying to make artificial intelligence more and more powerful. However, hardly any effort is devoted to making sure that those capabilities are implemented safely for the benefit of humanity. This is a concern from many points of view. The advances in technology change the way we work and relate to other human beings. Apart from the political threats and the risks of accidents, technology has become a problem because we basically can't do without it. Overusing computers and machines in our work may actually reduce our intelligence and creative force. Our face-to-face communication also seems to be affected by the things we see and share on social media. With almost every aspect of our lives reliant on technology, humanity as a whole risks losing the skills gained over years of evolution. Number 3. Corruption. In short, corruption refers to the practice of obtaining influence, power, or personal gains through illegitimate means, often at the expense of others. When discussing corruption, politics may be the first thing that comes to mind. This phenomenon has led to crises in many parts of the world where corrupt people in positions of power take advantage of those who aren't. Often, the proper channels to influence are closed so that only those with money are able to succeed. Corruption is not only restricted to politics, as it can have an enormous impact on every aspect of our lives, including education, safety, justice, or health. It threatens the proper functioning of society in many ways, one of which is creating the notion that people who have power and wealth are basically not obligated to abide by its rules. Number 2. War and racism. It would seem that war and racism are often interlocking concepts. The US intervention in Vietnam, for example, wasn't primarily motivated by race, but racial ideology permeated justifications of crimes committed against non-white civilians. Atrocities that have marked events such as World War II or the Sino-Japanese Wars were often driven by racial discrimination. It has been used as a powerful weapon to encourage fear and hatred in times of conflict and even in times of economic downturn. Even actions intended to make the world safer, such as the wars on drugs or terrorism, have produced profoundly unequal outcomes among racial groups. People of color often experience discrimination at every stage of the criminal justice system. Racism has fostered inequality for centuries, also influencing the manner in which human beings relate to each other. Number 1. Climate change. Global warming is described as the rise in the average temperature of the Earth's surface. Climate change has already had many observable consequences on the environment. Effects predicted by scientists in the past, such as intense heat waves, loss of sea ice, or the rise in sea levels, are now occurring at an accelerated pace. There is also high confidence that global temperatures will continue to rise for decades to come. Higher temperatures are also contributing to the occurrence of disasters like storms, floods, and droughts. Many scientists point to climate change as the biggest threat of the 21st century. It's a problem that impacts people in many ways, both direct and indirect. As temperatures spike, so does the incidence of emergency room visits, illness, and death. The rising temperatures also worsen air pollution by increasing the ground level ozone that's created when pollution from cars, factories and other sources react to sunlight and heat. Extinction rates on land and in the oceans are also growing as a result of climate change. Thanks for watching. What other problems do you think the world is currently facing? Let us know in the comments section below.